When I've got this watch out of the box, I really had mixed feelings about it. It looks like a good watch, and based on all the specs, it should be a great watch. However, every time I turned it and inspected it from different angle, I would find something that I wasn't particularly impressed about. So I thought, in a way of giving this watch a chance to prove itself, in my eyes at least, I will wear it for 1 week, every day, back to back, and see if my opinion changes. So how did this little experiment of mine go? Well, you probably guessed it. In this video, we'll definitely find out. Hello and welcome to the channel. We've got a number of interesting reviews coming up of some popular new watches, and I will be recording around the clock to get them out in the coming weeks, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything. So yes, who am I kidding and why am I surprised? I can hear you saying, this is Pagani Design watch after all, which means great specs, good looks, but at the expense of mediocre execution and poor quality control. Well, yes, in a way that's how it was when Pagani Design was priced comfortably under $100 US. However, these prices are slowly but surely becoming a thing of the past. This one, for example, cost me $120 US, almost double compared to what I paid a year and a half ago for this other Pagani Design watch, which has exactly the same specs, plus ceramic bezel and actually somewhat better quality control, but more about it in the moment. But putting all the parts of this watch together, we can see that this watch still has a lot going for it. Pagani Design managed to stick to the Seiko NH35 movement, which has a very good reputation. And I like the branding on this watch, I also like that it has a date, and I like 200 meters of water resistance, and of course, not to forget, quite nicely done case back. And I also like the overall aesthetics of this watch, which of course is quite reminiscent, to say the least, of Rolex Oyster Perpetual. So, before I share more of my personal impressions, let's go over dimensions and specifications of this watch and do a few wrist shots. It is a review after all. Just in case this is your first time watching a Pagani Design watch review, we get the usual basic but well-cushioned box, which contains branded cloth, user manual and the warranty card, and of course the watch. Pagani Design now offers a more premium box, which is actually quite okay, but that box will cost you about $10 extra. Dimensions. Well, this became a hot topic when Pagani Design announced this watch as 38mm, only later to update the listing to reflect more accurate 39.7mm size of this watch. Misleading listings are always annoying, I will not deny that. However, as for the actual size, well, I don't think it is a deal breaker, and judging by the fact that this watch is selling pretty well, looks like I'm not alone who is okay with the size of this watch. Maybe I should have named this episode Does Size Matter, or maybe not. Moving on, we have 20mm lugs, and this is good. Not only does it keep the watch case close to that magic 1:2 ratio, that is when diameter of the case is double the size of the lug width, but also 20mm lugs is a very popular size, and we should have no shortages of possible strap options. The case height is about 11.5mm, which is actually quite slim, especially for Seiko NH35 movement case. Lug tip to lug tip is just over 49mm, and the distance between the protruding end links is 52.9mm, which seems like a bit on the large side. However, the end links do curve down quite a bit and do somewhat hug the wrist rather than stick out on the sides. I will do some more wrist shots on my about 7-inch wrist later in this video. The supply stainless steel bracelet tapers down to about 16mm at the clasp, and we have 18mm very familiar milled clasp here. The full-length bracelet should comfortably cover about 8.5 or even 8.75 inch wrist, or about 22 centimeters. So guys with larger wrists should have no problem sizing this bracelet. On the fully supplied stainless steel bracelet, this watch weighs about 145 grams, and adjusted to my about 7-inch wrist, the watch weighs about 133 grams, a pretty good weight for a sport stainless steel type watch. Dial. Okay, as usual with Pagani Design watches, no prices for originality here. We have a black background with a very slight hint of sunburst effect, printed minute chaptering and applied hour indices. We have a logo and brand name by the 12 o'clock marker and 3 lines of text at the bottom of the dial. An interesting symbol at 6 o'clock marker with Japan movement words on each side of it. It does look somewhat like Pagani Design logo, although not exactly. If anyone knows what it is, please share with us in the comments. I actually like the aesthetics of the cursive PT text above 6 o'clock marker, however, the meaning of it is also a bit elusive. I reached out to Pagani Design to clarify, and all I've got back was that this means Pacific time zone and it is decorative only. Well, personally, I think there is not much space on the watch dial for decoration with no particular purpose, and the space on the dial should be treated with care. What do you think about such decorations? Should they be on the dial at all? Well, please let us know in the comments. We have quite well done hands. The minute and hour hands are filled with Lume, and hands do have a bit of a dimension to them, which makes them play in the light and does help legibility, as well as giving the dial a bit of a premium look. The hour indices also have well-polished facets and also play in the light, adding a bit of a nice sparkle to the generally muted dial. I also like the date window cutout. The edges are well finished and don't look like they've been chopped into the dial. And the white date background does work well with the white Lume on the hour indices, giving the dial a good and balanced look. So in general, the dial looks clean and well designed, though while we are inspecting the dial, we need to mention the Lume, and the Lume actually is quite decent and lasts longer than I'm used to on the Pagani Design watches. Crystal. We have a flat sapphire crystal here, which sits ever so slightly proud of the smooth mirror-polished bezel, and in general it should fend off some of the potential scratches on the bezel. There is apparently an AR coating applied. I personally couldn't see much of a difference with other watches with no anti-reflective coating in the same light conditions, but having said that, this watch has a good legibility under various viewing angles anyway. Moving on to the case finishing is actually pretty good. We have mirror-polished bezel, top and sides of the case, transitions between the facets are well done as well. Everything feels quite smooth and there are no sharp edges. Mirror polish does give the case somewhat premium look, however, as the result it is a bit of a fingerprint and potentially a scratch magnet, hence the white gloves. We have screw-down signed crown, the threading is smooth and of sufficient length, no complaints here. The back of the case has circular brushing and we have a screw-on back case, which definitely deserves a special mention. I like the engraving on the back of the case. I think this is a feature that makes up for at least for some of the quality control shortcomings of this watch. We have a picture of some kind of mountain peaks and something that looks like a shield with climbing ice axis and the logo in the center. In my opinion, the back case engraving is minimalistic and is done with taste. Well, these are the words I don't use very often when reviewing Pagani Design watches. Pagani Design declares 200 meters of water resistance on this watch, which means that we can not only climb mountains but also swim in this watch and possibly even do some recreational diving. Movement. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, Pagani Design used Seiko Instruments NH35 automatic movement in this watch. This is a proven reliable and dependable movement with a pretty good accuracy. It hacks, that is, the second hand stops when we adjust the time, and we can also hand wind this movement, and it has a date complication. This movement beats at 21,600 vibrations per hour and it has a power reserve of 41 hours. Bracelet. Well, the bracelet on this watch has all the parts and attributes of a good bracelet, however, the build quality does let it down to some degree. We have solid links, which is great, however, on none of my previous Pagani Design watches have I seen such a loose tolerances between the end links and the rest of the bracelet. This is not the end of the world, but it is kind of surprising and not in a good way. We have all brushed bracelet with polished sides of the links. The links are finished okay and even have a slight curvature to them, making the bracelet actually quite comfortable on the wrist. Do you see what I meant when I said earlier that I had mixed feelings about this watch? And then, after we finish enjoying the view of the comfortable bracelet, we get to the clasp and we are back to the mixed feelings territory. On the first glance, this is a good, fully milled functional clasp, and it even features on-the-fly extension, very similar to Rolex Easy Link type extension. Great! However, the edges on this clasp are not smooth at all, to the point that I would actually recommend to exercise caution when handling this clasp. The so-called on-the-fly extension is very tight, and it takes quite a bit of effort to operate. Okay, with some polishing tools and possibly some filing, this can be smoothed and fixed, but really it would be much better if this clasp was built as good as it looks. Well, in my opinion anyway, especially taking into account that this Pagani Design watch is priced above $100. Yes, I did tell you in the beginning I have mixed feelings about this watch. However, after spending every day of the week with it eventually grew on me. I enjoyed the accuracy of this watch thanks to the Japanese Seiko and H35 movement. I like the comfort on the wrist, its legibility, and of course its iconic looks. And for me it is $120 well spent. What do you think? Do let us know in the comments. And if you find this review helpful, do smash that like button and of course subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching, take care, and I will see you in the next one.